Hey everyone, I'm Carrie Pena. Thank you for listening on iTunes and Stitcher, and thanks for watching us today. Today we have Tish Frye in studio. She has an incredible story to share, and she's only just begun. Tish, thanks for being here.
Hey, Carrie, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
So we have so much to talk about. You're a very well-known auctioneer, not only in Arizona, but all across the country. But, you know, how you got here and your backstory is really, truly fascinating. I want to start by talking about your job title, which is auctioneer.
Yeah.
How did you get that?
Well, we can thank one of our local legends as well as a world legend, Alice Cooper, for that. My whole thing is that I have a background in entertainment, a theater major, background in television, modeling, a whole bunch of stuff. So auctioneers, although I'm traditionally trained like an auctioneer, they tend to stay at a podium and do whatnot. I have a photographic memory, so I just take a handheld wireless mic and game on. It's out into the audience. So the first time I worked with Alice, we were doing a sound check the night before Christmas pudding, and I was out there. He's like, "You're like a rock star. Do you sing?" I'm like, "No, you do not want to hear me sing." And he's like, "It's more like auction-tainment." And I go, "Well, that makes me the auction tainer."
And you ran with it.
Yeah, I ran with it. And then I go, "Hey, Alice, do you mind doing a soundbite for my website on that?" He goes, "I'll do a whole video." So it stuck.
You go out there in front of very large crowds, and people will often ask me, you know, does it make you nervous? You don't ever seem, I've seen you on stage many times, and I've had the good pleasure of working with you at events. You don't ever seem nervous. So how do you cut through that?
You know what? I think some people were born to be on stage. I know they say like two things are the most feared, and I think it's number 2 on the list is public speaking. That is not for me. I actually get very quiet before I go up. It's why I don't ever sit like at a head table or socialize. I'm in the game. My head's already getting in a zone. I kind of pace back and forth, and just a very kind of quiet moment. Then you hand me the mic, the lights are on, and bam, it just comes to life. I'm actually more comfortable up there than probably any other social setting. And I often tell people, if you're in a room of 20 people or maybe have to perform in that, that's actually a higher pressure situation. There's a lot of space between the stage and the audience. If you own that space, it's pretty safe up there.
What brought you to the world of being an auctioneer and now an auction-tainer? I mean, that was a man's world for the most part when you got involved in it, right?
It has been. It's been 11 years. I'd say in the past 6, it was a huge shift. You know, it's funny. It's one of those things. I can recall once watching an episode of Sesame Street, and they had like an auctioneer thing, and I like ran up to the TV. I was modeling long before when they started doing the lifestyle tent at Barrett-Jackson. I was the only model I knew. We'd get these day passes. I'd go all day and listen to the auctioneers, but never saw a woman. Listen to the chant. There was like something in it to me that my blood started to boil, and that's something that I teach people. Obviously, there's something that's pulling at me, that entrepreneurial side, that's a voice that's saying, "Hey, this has got something to it." So, you know, I went ahead and went to auction school, only girl there, 25 ranchers from Alberta in Billings, Montana, and me stuck out. I was their class president. And
what was it like when you were there? Did they accept you?
You know, I think they got a kick out of me. You know, I'm a runner. I get up every day at 5 a.m. They're like, "What is she doing?" You know, plus they were Canadian. I was like this goofy American showing up in heels. But yeah, they realized I was completely committed to it, committed to the entire process. And I think as a background in acting is a craft. So is the chant. So is the method in which auctioneers learn. That's a craft. So you spend your time vocally, you spend your time with exercises, doing things. So I think they respected me. And then after a while, I mean, we went out two-stepping. I don't know how to do that. I learned a lot about cattle. I learned about that. So, you know, I like people. We became great friends, and I'm still good friends with a lot of those guys that I went to school with.
You have had a lot of ups and downs in your personal journey, and you're putting together a book, which is so exciting. I want to talk to you about that in just a minute. But first, a little bit more on being on stage. And one thing that I've noticed about you is, like you said, you're on your game. But what I believe helps you so much be the star that you are is that when you take on an event, you learn about that charity, you care, you are very knowledgeable. People have often asked me over the years, you know, when you go out to cover something, how do you execute? How do you get, well, you got to know your stuff.
Exactly.
First and foremost, and you have to care about it, and you really care. You go, you don't just sign up to do a charity auction, you go and you find out what that charity is all about and where the money's going, who it's helping. I respect that.
Thank you. And you know what? Shannon and I were just talking about this a minute ago. It's also the greatest education of life you can ever get. So it started 12 years ago with Phoenix Children's Hospital, working within oncology, cancer. And so I learned that they did this camp for 8 days and nights and whatnot up in Friendly Pines and Prescott, and I decided to be a counselor. So I went ahead and just bailed on my life. Most of the counselors were in their 20s. I was in my 30s, and went up and volunteered. And my entire life changed on a dime. So then I went ahead and realized I want to do that for everybody. So if we are working with hospice of the Valley, I love them. I've been volunteered with them for 5 years. Like,
they
a lot
do
of times,
great work.
I'll go to trail someone for one day, and 5 years later, I'm still their auctioneer. I did that cancer camp for 10 years.
Yeah.
I just returned this last weekend over Labor Day. This was my 5th time, 1 in 10 in the LGBTQ community. Also my client. That was my 5th time as a camp counselor for at-risk youth. Been to Haiti twice to feed orphans. I rescue horses on the border. But the funniest thing is I love their face. Like, I'll be in a lab coat, and there'll be all these people, and we're working on a vaccine for cancer. And they'll go, who is this? And they're like, well, this is the head of such and such. This one's from Zurich. And here's our auctioneer. It's like, you kind of go, I'm like, it makes sense if you come to the event. But I have enough to be dangerous. You know, I know enough about these things. But the most important part is, I know what I'm talking about on stage. But for many people, they don't want to be around a bald child. They don't want to see someone sick and dying. I am in a comfort zone and in an honored position when I do that.
Yeah.
So then I go to the stage and I take you somewhere emotionally to that place.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be in an uncomfortable zone, but you can be a part of it. And you can give, because they can't do what they're doing without them.
I really relate with that, because the part about journalism that I love the most is not anchoring the news. It's actually going out and meeting people and telling their stories. And I feel that is a really great honor to be able to do that.
And you're really good at it, because you
Thank
peel the layers back.
So you have gone through a lot. And I just want to let our listeners and viewers know that I did ask you if it was okay to talk about this, because I never like to unearth any really personal things unless you're comfortable with it. You have 2 little kids. They're not little anymore.
No, they're teens. It's happening, people.
A girl and a boy. But you went through a very personal tragedy when your ex-husband and the father of your children accidentally shot himself. And as you relayed to me, this happened while he was cleaning his gun. At first, it was ruled a suicide, but later it was deemed an accident. Tell me a little bit more about what happened and how you have put the pieces back together for your family.
You know, this is probably one of the greatest tragedies. I don't wish this on anyone. And Steve and I had a very unusual divorce. We talked 5 times a day. We lived a mile apart. We did every holiday together. Our families are tight. And he was really my best friend. You know, I think that we started out as best friends in college and became husband and wife, then divorced. And I think you go back to what you know. So for that particular time, I had gone through another tragedy, finally gotten through my life down pat. And what we did, I'll be quite honest with you, Carrie, is that when we would go, if I jump on a plane in the morning to Dallas, I take my kids to the school, he'd pick them up, he'd take them back, that we were teammates. So I was leaving that day to go to Nantucket to do an event. We had seen each other the afternoon, we had joked, we were telling back and forth jokes on thing, and I said, all right, I'm leaving at 7:30. He's like, great, I'll be at the house at 9. I mean, my kids are now a teen, hour and a half down the street showing up, no big deal. I flew all the way through Boston, get to Nantucket, didn't even close the door to my room, and my son called. Mommy, Daddy never came. I said, it's now 5 o'clock at night. I left at 7:30 in the morning. He goes, well, we know we're not supposed to cook. We made top ramen, but Mommy, Daddy never came. I'm scared. So I went ahead and made some calls and got someone to the house to get my kids set, and then I called everyone I knew, and no one could find Steve. So I called his little brother, who ironically had just been transferred here maybe 6 months prior with his kids. Said, you need to go to the house. Got there. He said, I can't get in. I said, here's a garage code. Keep me on the phone. Walked in, calling his name, and then the worst of the worst happens. Big scream. He's dead.
What was your reaction when you got that phone call?
Well, let's say that the security at the hotel that I was staying in was called. I screamed louder than like a primal scream. It's your worst nightmare. And then you're thinking, I'm in Nantucket. You cannot get on or off Nantucket. My children are alone. Their father is passed. What do you do? You know, I mean, it's pure pain. It's pure pain, and you sit in it. So yeah, and then having been the fact that Steve was in this position where he was renting, and this whole tragedy had happened, and then when his brother finally let me know, listen, he's been shot. I mean, this is what I would call a very uncomfortable scene that one must go into. I had to make sure I got out of there, canceled my event. My clients were awesome. Get me on a plane in the morning. I didn't sleep the whole night to sit in a room waiting to get home to my children, to take them into a rental, to go ahead and clean that up.
How long ago was this?
July 22nd, a year ago this last July.
So this last year has been a year of growth, grief, and you also indicated to me that your daughter was going through some personal struggles, and you wrote me a note. And again, I asked you if it was okay to ask you about this, and I appreciate that. You wrote me a note because I something about your daughter's story I really connected with. I cover a lot of stories about bullying, and I hate to see kids at a young age go through so much heartbreak. It really, really, truly saddens me. So I think I just checked in to see how she was doing. And you wrote me something to the effect of, you have learned to get back in your life and live your life, and in turn they have taken that cue and followed your lead.
Yeah, it was really interesting. It was Mother's Day of all time, and as a parent, I'm going to be honest with you, and anyone that's out there listening, listen, Teen Lifeline is here, not my kid. There's a lot of things, and there's a lot of times where you think, I really don't think this is going to be my kid, but words like suicide come up. It is every parent's worst nightmare. And it was Mother's Day that came out, that was more than an option, actually a plan for one of my children. And you end up crying, and that child is so incredibly brave that tells you, I'd love to tell you to put this in a box. It's because Dad died. I love Dad. I miss Dad. But that's not why I feel this way. It's because the day Dad died, you died. And I have to live with you every day and watch you a shell of a human being just showing up. That's like, ouch. But she was right. She was right. I had to get back to myself. See, Letitia is my full name. That means joy. I've lived my whole life in joy with moments of despair, and suddenly I'm living in despair with moments of joy. And it takes a kid to kind of check you into that. It's terrifying. But then we got her the help she needed, and I got myself out of mine and back into the game, and it's awesome. We're all back. And yeah, I would share this 100 times over. I'm sorry, mental illness gets put into a box. I explain to my children, if you told me you had cancer, I would accept you, love you, and celebrate
There's
you.
still so much stigma surrounding 100%. Mental illness.
And any parent out there, don't assume not my kid. Don't do that. And the family has to heal from the whole.
So what did you do? I know it's probably not a perfect science, not like one single thing, but when you really sat down in the quiet and thought about your life and what you needed to do for your kids, how did you make a change?
The first thing you do is you go to your medical professionals. You really have to turn in. Medical meaning your actual pediatrician, which then goes into a therapist. Then you discuss things like medication versus not medication, and you get into a team. The other thing is now you have no parent to bounce this off of. These are major decisions. So you get that into it. Finding out, my daughter wanted to go to summer camp, giving her space and finding the correct time. And really, when the professionals turn to you, say, no, they're in a safe place now. Like, they're really good. Then you have to ask yourself, well, what can I do for myself? And what you realize is you look back over a year and thought, wow, all I've been doing is showing up. Like, I got to pay this bill, send them to this school, that. What happened to the fact that we used to have music on in the morning? What happened to the mom that's like made rainbow-colored Belgian waffles with clouds made out of whipped cream?
I want you to come to my house and make those.
Yeah, where did she go? And suddenly you realize, I got to do things for me again. I stopped seeing friends. I stopped, basically, Curie, I had one law. I was either on a stage or with my kids. Period. And in that time frame, running, about my other accident, I'd been hit while running. I'd stopped running on the street. Well, you know what? I took my life back. I got hit by a car.
Because you love exercise. It's a part of your DNA.
Yeah. And I got struck had a brain injury out running, so I stopped running in the street. No, I took it back. I went back and did all the things, started seeing my girlfriend, started traveling. All of those things that fed my soul needed to come back into my life in order for me to feed my children's soul.
It makes me so happy to hear that you're in this place today and perfectly positioned to launch the next leg of your journey.
100%.
Your book. Tell us about it, titled A Walk in Her Shoes.
A Walk in Her
right?
Shoes, and that's because
you always wear great shoes, by the way.
It's a part of it. It's a 7-point methodology, not only for the entrepreneur, but for the individual looking to get to that next step. And yes, I have been branded for the shoes that I wear, and so it's called A Walk in Her Shoes. And it's a 7-point methodology. I already speak on it. I am in the midst of going traditional publishing, which is not easy, but I have the honor and pleasure. My proposal is the first part. It's been accepted by Dupree Miller.
They actually saw you on stage in Dallas and approached you.
Plucked me off a stage 3 years ago, not knowing all this stuff I was going to go through, signed me a year and a half ago, and then walked me through the process. Hey, Letitia, you have a method of getting knocked down and somehow getting back up. Figure out what those 7 points are and let's teach the world.
So you did, though, have to change because in the beginning it was more of a memoir. And what were you hoping to share?
I was just hoping to share. A single mom goes out there, this is how you can do it. Maybe, I've discussed, and we were discussing in the previous time before you came in 2008, my tax estate, I made $20,064 with 5 jobs and 2 kids. 4 years later, I was paying over $30,000 in taxes. So it was really more along that. Now it's a much step further. Sure, I can teach you how to get success in finances, but I want to set you free. I want to help you success through trauma. I want to teach you it's not anything to do with age, financial insecurity, or anything that you're facing. You've got the tools necessary to rise, and I will teach you how to do it.
And part of this is now a speaking tour. So it's not you being an auctiontainer, it's you being the keynote speaker, and that's a whole different ballgame altogether. That's pretty exciting.
It's awesome, and it's an honor, huge honor.
What do you say we just have a few minutes? I could talk to you for hours, but we just have a few minutes left because Shannon, the producer, is giving me some cues over there, giving me some cues. You are living your dream, which you crafted, and it was something that when you went into auctioneering, you basically were going down a new path. What do you say to people who might be watching or listening who have a dream but don't know how to get there, because it can be very scary, and especially if you get knocked down along the way?
The first thing I would tell you is use your fear. Fear is the greatest asset. It can be the greatest motivator. It can be what stops you or what launches you. The second thing I want to tell you is that if you go back and truly look through history, if you want to take someone like Mary Kay, she was 43 and $5,000. Age does not matter. By the time she died at 83, $1.3 billion was her company report. Look at Martha Stewart, 44. I can name a bunch of them. Vera Wang switched careers at 40. You even had Julia Child started cooking at 36, first cookbook at 50. Henry Ford did the Model T at 48. The worst thing I could ever hear is, well, I don't have enough money, I'm too old, I'm too afraid. I guarantee you, you have everything you need in front of you. You have to listen to that voice. You have to take a leap, and you must put your passion before your paycheck. Get in and around it, learn it, respect it. The paycheck will come later. I am living proof of that. And you know what? Get yourself a mentor. Find someone that you want to emulate or be like. I mentor people constantly. There's no charge for that. And go for it.
And how's your daughter doing today?
She's absolutely fantastic. Thank you for asking. Her and my son are doing great. She's a freshman now. He is actually in middle school. And all three of us are living the life and dream of everything we've ever wanted to do.
Where can people find out more about you?
You know, the first thing to do, if you haven't, LetitiaFrye.com is just a great place for my site. My site is actually already encompassing both the speaking and the book and everything else that's in there. You can find me on Facebook under Tish Frye. Again, I use a nickname. And then in addition to that, I'm on Twitter, LF Auctiontainer at twitter.com. And, pretty much anyone that reaches out to me, I'll answer you. I tell everybody I speak to, go ahead, send me your comments, send me your questions. Heck, let me be your mentor. I'll do it.
Well, again, it is such a pleasure to have you on the show. I'll just tell you in closing, so I have emceed also hundreds of events over the years, but being an auctioneer is a whole different ballgame. And several times they've said, oh, by the way, you're going to MC and we also want to have you be the auctioneer. And you know what I say? Where's Tish Frye? Get her over here. I can't be the auctioneer. I can be the MC, but that is a very special talent that you have to go out there and go to bat for these charities, but in a way that's really authentic. And you managed to raise a whole lot of money, lady. Yeah. So kudos to you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for being here, Tish. And thanks for listening, everyone, and watching our live stream. You can see the show on my Facebook page at Carrie Pena or on our site, always inspiredmedia360.com. And be sure to subscribe so you can stay in touch with us. We always love to hear your feedback. Today's show produced and engineered by the great Shannon Hernandez, brought to you by Inspired Media 360. Until next time, stay inspired.